I call to order the February 13, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting of the Board of Education of Hinsdale Township High School, District 86. We are meeting in the Hinsdale South Library. The time is 6 p.m. Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Here.
Member James.
Here.
Member Akris.
Here.
Member Kurtsunis. Member Rahman.
Here.
Member Walker.
Here.
Member Waters.
Please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Point of order. I would like to motion to place the action item regarding the weapons detection system support position and rate following the closed session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Walker.
Aye.
Member Rahman.
Aye.
Member Kurtsunis.
Aye.
Member Akris.
Aye.
Member James.
Aye.
Member Greenspan.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. We will consider agenda item 4.4 following our closed session discussion tonight. Moving on to public participation. The board will now hear audience comments for up to a total of 45 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board. Board meetings are meetings of the board held in public, not open forum town hall meetings. Board members will not engage the public during public comment. The board will keep this in mind as we conduct our meetings, allowing the public to provide input at the time allotted on the agenda to ensure that the multiple voices of the community inform board deliberations. When the board deliberates, it will be a time for the board to listen and learn from each other, taking the public input into consideration, not a time to re-engage with the public. The board will consistently abide by our formal processes relating to this issue so that all persons are treated fairly and equally. Our first speaker is Bobby Fisher.
Hey, thanks to everybody for their service and thanks for hearing me out here. I know you guys have a lot of really serious things to consider today. This probably doesn't rank up with those, but in looking at the consent items, I saw under 6.2, Ms. Allison Fish shows up as someone who's going to be receiving a stipend to be the athletic coordinator. And for me, it just brought up a lot of great memories. Coach Fish was my eldest child's tennis coach and was just a fantastic role model for Denise. And at the time, we didn't have enough vans. So Coach Fish learned how to drive the bus so that she could get the kids to, we had to play tennis at a park instead of the high school because the tennis court was falling apart. And she was just such a fantastic role model to my daughter, and I was just glad to see that. It made me think about the role of activities. So I remember seeing a stat at a prior board meeting, 140 kids were cut from fall semester sports. And it just made me so sad because sports are a place to find belonging. And then you look at the number of kids that were cut from speech and debate and other activities, and it made me wonder if a worthy goal, in addition to curriculum, is how do we make the kids feel welcome at school? And I look at Coach Fish, who's moving up in the ranks of the athletic department, as someone who had a meaningful impact on my child. And to the extent that we could have these fantastic teachers outside of the classroom have this impact more and more, would just be a wonderful thing. So congrats to Coach Fish. I'm thrilled. I think that stipend money is probably money well spent. And maybe a topic for future board meetings is how we can drive up extracurriculars. If it's 70% of kids now, what would it take to get to 80%, 90%? And getting cut from a sport or from speech is traumatic. Maybe putting students first is is about not cutting kids and just having B teams and C teams, or, you know, whatever it takes to make that progress. But at the end of the day, I look at Coach Fish as such a role model, and I'm glad that whatever process is moving Coach Fish up, you know, in the athletic department's ranks, it tells me that something's working. So, thanks.
Thank you, and next speaker is Linda Burke.
Thank you all very much for your service. I would like to speak about the issue of alignment. I think that the vision of alignment, which the entire community supports, is course opportunity alignment. It is not teachers pulled out of class endlessly for radical curricular overhaul. In fact, radical overhaul is looked at with suspicion by much of the community ever since Pitt U was attempted to be imposed on an entire grade level. Anything that seems like another Pitt U is viewed with skepticism. So we are not looking for radical curricular overhaul. The entire community, though, loves course access equality. And also, the pro-alignment community does need to come up with a reasonable definition of opportunity alignment. Our high schools are too far apart to be grade level centers. Their location is too asymmetric for boundary change on a large scale to be feasible. So one high school has half the attendance area of the other. Two freestanding high schools may not be able to get to 100% identical course options, but we could easily do much better than we are with mainstream academic course offerings. They should be available at both high schools. And we have creative solutions to expand this equality of course opportunity. I would consider it basic that South have 9th grade world history honors, a biology first pathway that is genuinely supported and equally encouraged. And no more, one courageous family has to take a lonely stand to access 9th grade biology, which is basic and near universal. And there are a couple of seminars, and that also should be offered equally. Early bird or a special period of the day where there's a shuttle could be a solution for this. Also, I think we are doing our kids a disservice if we fail to interpolate the occasional hybrid class into their perfectly normal high school day. What are they going to tell their future college or employers? Oh no, I will turn up my toes to the daisies if I have to take a remote class. It's, I'm not saying it should be frequent, but when that's a good choice for the particular course, that's another solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to information reports. Hinsdale Central Good News. Principal Walsh.
Good evening, Bill Walsh, Principal, Hinsdale Central High School. Welcome. Happy early Valentine's Day to all. Tonight, Truman Patel is going to give Hinsdale Central report. Truman, the floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you. So before I get into the student voice section, we're going to cover some of the activities that are going on. One thing which may have stressed out Mr. Walsh maybe a little bit is the student council is planning a winter rave. Thought that you guys should know about that. I'll give you guys a report next month on how that went. Ski and Snowboard Club went up to Cascade Mountain and had a great time. They are going on another trip. Actually, no, they went on a trip on February 7th, which I also heard good things about. One big thing was East Asian Students Together, EAST, that was a very clever name on their part, had their first Lunar New Year celebration at Hinsdale Central. So there were a bunch of opportunities available for anyone who attended. There was good food, there was it believes in cultural performances and arts and crafts. And I believe Board President Kat Greenspun was there, along with other notable figures like County Board Member Lucy Chang Evans. So that was definitely a good time. We also had the improv show recently, which again, I've heard good things about, and IMEC All-State, which is the Illinois Music Educators Conference, where we sent many Red Devils, and they participated in a few days of singing, playing their instruments, or just in participating in their concerto and composition competitions. And Hinsdale Central is proud to claim Vincent Lund, who won first place in that concerto competition. Now moving on to Devil Athletics, Hinsdale Central varsity cheer competed for the first time in Hinsdale Central history this past month. They don't usually compete. Their season consisted of a virtual competition and a West Suburban Conference competition hosted by Hinsdale South, and they quickly qualified for nationals to join the National Cheerleaders Association in Dallas, Texas. They made the Red Devils proud, placing 4th in the nation, a great way to end their first ever competition season. So there's some pictures there too, which are pretty cool. And then the Hinsdale Central Special Olympics basketball team has also been killing it this season. On January 19th, they secured a 4th place victory at the district tournament, but they didn't end there. They had a pack to place on January 25th, where, as always, the Red Devils brought their fire. And then the IHSA awards a sportsmanship banner to schools that exemplify the ideals of sportsmanship at the state final tournaments in all team sports. And Hinsdale Central Boys Soccer was awarded this banner for the 2024 to 2025 season, which is an acknowledgement of our amazing Red Devil athletes and fans who demonstrated true Red Devil character and sportsmanship during their incredibly successful run through the IHSA State Series. And then this one's not included in the report because it's more recent, but 2 nights ago, the Hinsdale Central basketball team broke a personal record by getting 24 wins in a row. So good job to them, they have been on fire. Now, we can get to the student voice section. Over the past few weeks, I interviewed dozens of students from freshman to junior years regarding their experiences with the course selection process. The overwhelming consensus was that the process was efficient and well organized, with most students appreciating the guidance provided by school counselors. Juniors in particular expressed excitement about the increased freedom they have in selecting their courses, a feature they find empowering and beneficial to their academic growth. Though most students find the system satisfactory, we can't let the happiness of the majority cancel out the complaints of a few. A few concerns were raised that merit consideration. One student shared that, despite wanting to take a cooking class, she was unable to do so because she had not previously taken Culinary 1, leaving her with glass and metalsmithing to fulfill a fine arts graduation requirement, something she doesn't have much interest in. Another student mentioned that while he can enroll in all core classes with ease, PE is often the one that gets sacrificed to accommodate scheduling constraints, but he does understand this trade-off and does not recommend any changes. Additionally, an incoming senior notes that while she has personally had success in getting into her preferred courses, a few of her friends have struggled with popular arts classes due to high demand, which remains an area for potential improvement. The most frustration was expressed by a student with an individualized education program, or an IEP. As implied by the name, IEPs are individualized for the student, and thus the student has a slightly different course selection experience than others. An IEP requires a team approach to course selection based on the student's course requests and/or course load. This can ultimately result in students not being able to enroll in some of their desired courses, especially electives and those that are considered more rigorous. In this student's experience, when it came to science and math courses especially, their choices were not accommodated as easily. For example, according to the student this year, they were recommended for a slightly lower level course despite having a B in the class. Apparently, according to the student, I didn't really get a chance to interview other people, the other students with Bs were recommended for a higher level course. The student was able to be placed in the desired course during the course selection meeting, which the student often runs, so it all ended well. Selection went smoothly, only the recommendation process presented a few obstacles. The student also mentioned their counselor was extremely helpful in the selection process. So overall, course selection runs smoothly for Hinsdale Central students, with the exception of some elective and high-demand courses. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Principal Clemente.
Good evening, Carrie Paranto, Principal of Hinsdale South. I want to also echo what Principal Walsh said and say happy early Valentine's Day to all of our students, our staff, and our community members. I'd now like to hand it over to Ian Milan for our monthly report.
Hello, I'd like to start with highlighting a couple of the main events at Hinsdale South. So last Friday, we held our annual faculty variety show.
and student staff members and community members all had the opportunity to see performances ranging from comedy skits, which Dr. Corona participated in, and live band performances. So thank you to all of the staff members who participated in this show and helped make this event possible. We also had our annual Step Down Step competition. So 9 schools from around the Chicago area participated in the show, and it was nearly sold out. And congrats to Homeward Flossmoor for taking first, and thank you to Coach Alexander for organizing this event. We also had our Pack the Place game, and it was an immense success, so congratulations to our Special Olympics basketball team. And I'd like to recognize all of the seniors on this year's basketball team. Now moving on to more athletics. So on January 27th, we also recognized a lot of our seniors on the girls basketball team. So congrats to Kelly King, Vacara Vasquez, Marie Haley, and Vivian Lang for having a successful 4 seasons of high school basketball and for nearing the end of their high school career. And I'd also like to congratulate our Hinsdale South band line for being really successful at regionals and for qualifying to compete at the state competition. I know that all of these Hornets have put in an immense amount of work into this sport, and so we wish them the best of luck as they reach the end of their season. Our chess team has also been really successful, and they even placed second in the West Suburban Conference. And earlier this week, they also were able to make it to the state finals. So let's continue to cheer on these Hornets as they head towards Peoria for the finals. And then lastly, I'd like to recognize our girls bowling team for also having an extremely successful season. And I'd like to specifically congratulate Mandy Aylward for placing 7th and Madison for placing 4th. And because of this, they were able to advance to the sectionals competition. So I wish those two the best of luck. And then moving on to our extracurricular activities, these teams have also been very successful. So our Science Olympiad team was able to place first in Division A and 9th overall out of 56 teams at the Crystal Lake Science Olympiad Invitational. And the team also medaled in 22 of the 23 Science Olympiad events. So huge congratulations to all of the team members and the coaches. Our mock trial team was also successful, so after conducting 2 trials, they were able to place 3rd and tied with Whitney Young High School. So again, congratulations to all of these Hornets. And then we also had Business Professionals of America, where they competed at the regionals at Edison Trail High School. And we even had 18 state qualifiers, which is, I believe, the most in South history. And then at the West Suburban Leadership Conference, we had 28 different Hornets who had the opportunity to represent Hinsdale South. And there these Hornets learned how to better support their peers and improve their school environment. So thank you to all of these Hornets for being amazing representatives of Hinsdale South and for always embodying South pride. Now, aside from the good news, I'd also like to talk about the student voice. So I know last month, we heard the students from Hinsdale Central and their opinions on the weapons detection system. So now I think it's important to also hear the students at Hinsdale South's opinions. So now let's see, do South students really feel safer as a result of the weapons detection system? So while one student agreed that the school made the right decision in implementing the weapons detection system, they felt that the weapons detection system was just not enough when it comes to school, to increasing the security. However, they did not explain or tell me other ways that the school can improve on this matter. And on a similar note, another student mentioned that the weapons detection system sometimes doesn't work because on some days it would be flagged, while on other days they weren't flagged despite bringing the same items to school. A senior in early grade PE mentioned how the intermittent and unannounced use of the weapons detection system makes it even more difficult to make it to school on time due to the delay the weapons detection system causes. She also noted how sometimes the weapons detection system was coincidentally put in place on days with bad weather, making it more difficult for her to not be tardy. While students agreed that the weapons detection system did indeed improve school safety, those same students can't find a reason why the current system of infrequent uses does help improve school security. Many base this on the chance that an individual may walk in with a weapon on days when the weapons detection system is not in place. However, I think it is also important to note that the weapons detection system is not the only security measure put in place within the building. Students and staff members are required to wear lanyards for identification. We also have amazing security officers who maintain safety within the building and also have developed really close relationships with a lot of the students here. And so all of the students who voiced their opinions to me have told me that they appreciate the school administrations and the security staff's efforts to keep the school a safe place. However, they do wish to see improvements in the weapons detection system and the overall security of the school to feel more at ease when they learn. And that is all for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Locke.
Hi there. Happy, I'm gonna try to do it like Bill and Carrie, but Michael Locke, Superintendent of Hinsdale District 8. Just a couple things tonight to update community members, families, staff, board members about. First, I continue to spend as much time as I can in classrooms. Just this past week or two, I spent time with the special ed department at South, with the math department at South, with the English department at Central, and it's been really informative and really fun. Like, our teachers and teams are working really hard and doing great things. I am incredibly impressed. When I was at South looking at special ed, I got to sit into a special group. It was just it was 3 boys and a teacher helping to teach coping skills and teaming skills. These are students who are working real hard to connect better with their peers, and there were some really fascinating tasks that they were doing to share how they were feeling and collectively come up with strategies to address those sorts of things. I spent some time in the Haven program, talked to a lot of students there. They were doing some online courses to get caught up. One student was working on a paper to make the case that we should start school at 11 o'clock in the morning. I insisted he needs to send me that paper when it's done. I think that will be a difficult change to make, but I'm really curious to see what happens there. And another set of kids were working on some math problems. The English department at Central, we spent a long time talking about rhetoric and writing and the ways we process and teach students to craft arguments, and how that's done in the days of computers being all over the place. At the math department at South, the highlight for me was walking into a couple intervention classes. These are lunch periods where students come for extra help in math. It was really warm. Kids were there, and the buckets of French fries and sandwiches and the math books up. Teacher was working with some groups. Other students were just helping each other out, but there was math on the walls, math in front of there, and a really neat and warm vibe for all these kids seeking extra help. It didn't go unnoticed that our teachers still have lots of challenges. I heard repeatedly that we worry about artificial intelligence, particularly how it can make academic dishonesty more prevalent, and talked a lot about ways to think about how to deal with that. The math teachers at South are rightfully proud of what they're doing with their additional supports they're providing, but said, hey, we ought to be able to do this for more kids. There's more people who need help. So trying to think about those kind of ways. And it was interesting just like listening to some of the Haven teachers and the students. We're sort of asking the age-old question that I know students like Ian and Shrima, you never ask this, but why do we have to learn this? And it made me think that we collectively have this challenge about how do we make what we're teaching and how we're teaching really relevant and engaging to all of our students. So it's been a lot of fun doing that, and I continue to learn more and keep doing that kind of work. Let me highlight just a couple instances of good news. As you know, we've got these buttons on our website. We push them out, and every couple times a week or so, something pops up in my inbox. Somebody sharing some good news. Let me just remind folks, it's a great way to highlight the little things. There's tons of great things happening in every school and every building all the time. Let us know about it, and I'm happy to use some of my time here just to, to make a big deal of it. This one's pretty cool. Devani Thompson's a student at South, and this is a piece of art he put together. It's featured at the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry in their Black Creativity Juried Art exhibition. So over 100 pieces of work there from all over the country. He's one of just a few people in the teen category where his art is there. It's a great looking piece. It looks a lot like my neighborhood, and I just appreciate how he, it's just such an accomplishment. It's really, really neat. We're trying to figure out ways to just involve more and more students in what we do. This is a picture of the Hinsdale Central Library. Said, hey, let's get a bunch of students to give us advice about what are the books we should feature, how do we make sure that things that are interesting to students are front and center in our library. So this group of students, I know they're all girls, but boys were included too, came together and are working with the library team to do some work to make the library even more relevant and even more engaging. At South, just this past week, in partnership with a few local medical officials and a doctor at Adventist and a few others, we started the Gibraltar STEM Fellowship. And this is an experience open to all science students to come. I think it's for 6 sessions to learn from people in the community about what it takes to become a STEM professional. There's career advice, discussion of challenges, opportunities, and mentoring. It's a real exciting initiative that Carrie and her team have started over at South. And Shreeman brought his fire before I could bring mine. But I heard great things about the Lunar New Year celebration. Made a real big deal of it. Lots of food and dancing and people showing up. This again happened at Central. It's a pretty neat thing. Shreeman also mentioned this, but I want to. This one made me real proud. The Central boys soccer team received a sportsmanship banner. Only 6 of those were given out this fall across the state. And look, I love medals. I love trophies. I like plaques. First place is better than second place. I'm as competitive as all that, but this is the kind of thing that really makes me proud, because this says our team, our coaches, our fans are good sports, and they cheer, and it's just a testament to the kind of community and the kind of culture I think we want. So my hat's off to the soccer team and their fans. This is the kind of thing I think we should really aspire to. I also want to recognize another partnership. This is some work we're doing with DuPage County, the Community House, and the team at Hinsdale South. We've got a study group started right at the Lake Terrence Apartments. This is a special space for students who live in that area to have study help, a study room. There's lots of pizza provided, but it's another way to sort of help provide additional academic support. You don't have to do it at school, you can do it right in the community, and it's a really nice partnership. So thanks for everybody who's there. They still have space, so anybody at South is welcome to be a part of that. It's a really cool thing, and again, a nice way to show that, hey, as a community, we're all working together in the service of what our kids need. Couple announcements. Yesterday, maybe the day before, we put out our spring testing schedule. Again, let me remind you, the state is changing from the SAT suite to the ACT suite. So our state mandated testing will happen on April 16th and April 17th. reading, English, math, science, and writing, I think are the 5 subjects. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong there. Because we're doing this transition, we're also doing a district-wide optional SAT. You gotta pre-register for that one pretty soon, so check the email for information. Again, this is the annual testing, we're required to do this by the state, but there's some scheduled change coming up to do that, so I wanted people to know. Also, next week, everyone's gonna get a message, our survey season is really beginning. The 5 Essentials survey is also required by the state. The results are public, it's part of our report card. And as someone who's worked with the designers of this survey a great deal, I can tell you the rigor and the back end sort of calculations and analysis that is done is really top notch. This is really useful information to help me and the team understand what's working and what's not working in our schools. I have directed the whole team, particularly Carrie and Bill, let's work on getting the response rate for students and teachers up. And now I'm saying to all of you, our parent response rate was less than 6% last year. I would like that to go up. So you get these emails, please respond. It helps us with very valuable data. No responses are attached to any individual person. It's all collected in aggregate. So please pay attention to that. You'll get that email in a week or so. Let me talk a little bit about snow. This is a cover. One of the privileges, I guess, of being a superintendent is I receive special bulletins from the National Weather Service if and when there may be some snow happening. As you know, there was some snow yesterday afternoon. We kept school open, not all of our neighbors did. We needed 31 substitutes yesterday. We got them all filled. A typical Wednesday only has 22. There was some staff absent for other reasons that don't need a substitute. And we know that many of our teachers have young kids and have to do this. I feel pretty good with these kind of numbers. And our student attendance rate wasn't bad either. Typical Wednesdays, about 6% of kids are absent, or 12% absent yesterday. So to me, you learn best when you're in school. I want to keep our schools open as much as we can. I want people to be safe. But thanks to everyone, I think we did a pretty decent job given the weather. And I know there's a lot of people who wanted to spend the day in their pajamas doing their work. I might have thought that to myself once or twice, but I think we all did the right thing there, so thanks. And that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Locke. Moving on to action items. Approve sole source service agreement with efficiency reporting. Unfortunately, the information and documents pertaining to agenda item 4.1 are incomplete. The board is unable to take action. So may I have a motion to postpone agreement with efficiency reporting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion James, second Rahman. Is there any questions? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member James.
Aye.
Member Akras.
Aye.
Member Kurtsunis.
Aye.
Member Rahman.
Aye.
Member Walker.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Approve settlement agreement with FBG Corporation. May I have a motion to approve the settlement agreement with FBG Corporation in the amount of $14,000 payable to Hinsdale Township High School District 86 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Kartsunis, second Rahman. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member James.
Aye.
Member Akras.
Aye.
Member Kurtsunis.
Aye.
Member Rahman.
Aye.
Member Walker.
Aye.
Member Greenspan.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Approve Director of Data and Analytics contract. May I have a motion to approve a 1-year administrator contract effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 with Alexandra Fosco for the Director of Data and Analytics at an annual salary of $115,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Roman, second Akris. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Kartsunis?
Aye.
Member Roman?
Aye.
Member Walker?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member James?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Approve employee settlement agreement. May I have a motion to approve settlement agreement with employee to rescind retirement and repay the district $1,754.93.
So moved, Walker. Second. Cartoonist.
Motion Walker, second Kartsunis. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Roman?
Aye.
Member Walker?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member James?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Kartsunis?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items consist of items that are routine in nature or that have been discussed with the board and are now presented for approval. Any item may be pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion and consideration. All items on the consent agenda are approved with a single motion unless removed before the roll call vote. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for further discussion in a separate vote? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion, James.
Second Roman.
Motion James, second Roman. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Walker?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member James?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Kartsunis?
Aye.
Member Roman?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to board committee reports. The PTAC report. Chair James will provide the January PTAC report.
Thank you, President Greenspan. A meeting of the PTAC Advisory Committee was held on January 29th. Administrators from the district office, Hinsdale Central, Hinsdale South, and the Transition Center all reported on the following items. We have some reporting requirements. The charter was discussed, etc. The prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Updates to building security and safety were reviewed, bus evacuation drills. There were not any student handbook updates, and we also reviewed a substantial amount of data, including athletic code violations, concussions. We have 0 physical restraints this year, attendance data, discipline data. It was noted that the district is required by law to report to the SRO any incident involving drugs and weapons. Misconduct was discussed, including cell phone misuse, insubordination, and academic dishonesty. And there were 86 incidents reported through the anonymous tip line. We are using a new tip line called Safe to Help that is monitored 24/7. The committee also had discussions with community representatives about several of the data points that were discussed within PTAC.
Thank you. Moving on to the policy committee report. Again, Chair James.
Thank you. The policy committee met on Monday, February 3rd to review the following policies and procedures. Policy 2:265, which is the Title IX grievance procedure. Committee discussed restoring the policy to a prior version in accordance with the January 9th, 2025 action by the U.S. District Court in Eastern District of Kentucky in the case of State versus Tennessee versus Cardona. That policy was presented under consent agenda and was approved a few minutes ago. We also discussed policy 6:135, accelerated placement program, and policy 2:140, communications to and from the board. Those two policies were sent back for legal guidance and will likely be brought back at our next policy committee meeting on March 3rd.
Thank you. Moving on to the HR committee report. Chair Walker will now provide the February HR committee report.
The HR committee met on Tuesday, February 4th, and discussed the following topics. The Assistant Superintendent of Academics, we discussed the hiring process for that role, and we did discuss that Superintendent Locke will provide specific details about what he's looking for in the candidate. That may result in some changes in the job descriptions or requirements. We spent some time discussing the course selection and staffing timeline for spring 2025. Specifically, we talked about the key dates for course selection and the staffing timeline. The process will culminate in a preliminary staffing recommendation that'll be brought to the board at the March Committee of the Whole meeting. A preview will be presented to the HR committee on March 4th, and there is the possibility that the committee may hold a special meeting to follow board discussion of the preliminary staffing recommendations ahead of the final recommendation. Principal Walsh also joined the committee meeting to discuss the master scheduling process. He outlined the details of that process, including a simple tally report, the staffing recommendation and course requests and how that works, conflict report, as well as the student request report. And then finally, the committee requested that CFO Stevenson report the impact of running low request courses on the budget.
Thanks, Terry. Moving on to the Academic Committee report. Chair Akris will provide the February Academic Committee report.
Thank you. The Academic Committee met on Friday, February 7th, and the committee discussed the following agenda items. We began with a review of the fall 2024 Panorama Survey data. Dr. Smith, Assistant for Student Services, and Dr. Riffle, Director of Student Services, presented a review of the results of the fall 2024 Panorama Survey. A data-driven approach to supporting students' social emotional needs. The district uses these results of the Panorama Survey to track trends over time and tailors SEL initiatives based on student feedback, which allows for a structured approach with multiple data review points throughout the year. Our second agenda item was we talked about the PACE framework, an update on where that work has been. Dr. Locke gave us an outline of the progress of the framework and its role in guiding students, families, and educators in college and career planning. And then finally, we discussed next steps on course and staffing. Dr. Locke discussed that there's been multiple ongoing discussions around staffing, scheduling, and maturing, as we just heard from Member Terry about within the HR. So this definitely is a topic we've been discussing in the academic committee. The upcoming staffing meeting is in late February, will be a key moment for further discussion and refinement.
Thank you, Chair Akris. Special Committee update. Chair Vermont.
The special committee will hold its first meeting on Monday, March 3rd at 6:30 following the policy committee meeting. The first agenda will include following components that will form the committee charter and the next steps, such as discussing our specific purpose, special issues we'll investigate. Our final report or culmination of work will be submitted to the board. Our reading schedule, cadence, and any plans to engage parents, guardians, teachers, faculty, staff, and or other persons with expertise or experience to serve as non-voting representatives to the committee. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Moving on to the President's report. Data is very important to this district. It's especially important in the service, in support of our students, and specifically their growth and achievement in classrooms, and it supports our teachers, and it arms our educators with information that helps them support our kids also. So I'd like to extend a congratulations to Lexi Fosco on being selected as District 86 new Director of Data and Analytics. Lexi currently serves as a mathematics teacher at Hinsdale South, so she has experience in our district. In this newly created position, Fosco will play a critical role in collecting, analyzing, and our data, and working with our administration in helping support our teachers and supporting our students, which will improve student outcomes, target supports, and surface important insights. We talk a very lot about data around this table, so adding capacity here will serve the district well. And I hope you join me in congratulating Lexi Fosco. Survey participation. As Dr. Locke mentioned in his superintendent report, students, staff members, and families will soon be receiving communication regarding upcoming surveys. Please take the time to complete these surveys. It's so important for your voices to be heard and your feedback to be collected. And the 5 Essential Surveys is a state mandated survey. So please take the time, if you can, to fill out the survey. The administration will use the responses to inform future decisions that impact our students' educational experiences. Further, I'm sure that Dr. Locke and his team will report out the results and findings of these surveys when they are available, so we can all learn from them. And if you haven't noticed, Dr. Locke really likes data too. In closing, I'd like to wish everybody happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate. Wishing your students, families, teachers, and staff, and our community very, very happy Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is a great reminder of the kindness, compassion, and support that make our school system so spectacular. Have a great evening. Moving on to future agenda item requests. Do any members of the board have a request for a future agenda item?
Can you go back a second for that? I'm sorry, for board comments? I apologize.
I didn't do board comments yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay.
Sorry.
Does anybody have any future agenda items?
I do have a request. I do want to see potential conversation about our goals and mission as a district. I'd like to see in terms of where the direction is, where are we heading, who falls in responsibility for this.
So you're asking for a discussion on goals
Yeah.
for the district?
District 86 goals and mission.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have
strategic
that, Deb?
planning.
Is there anybody else?
I'd like to see a discussion of world history honors in a future meeting.
Isn't that for the academic committee to discuss?
It could be, we moved over to the detail and sent over there.
I guess
We do have it in.
it's on the agenda, our upcoming agenda
It
for
is.
academic committee.
Okay.
Is that correct, Dr. Lewis?
Yeah,
did
we
talk
are,
about-
we are planning to have a discussion about social studies broadly on the 28th at the next academic committee meeting, and happy to include world history honors in any shape or form also.
Okay. Do you think that we need to have a discussion? Are you asking for a discussion? So the academic committee is the Friday after the next board meeting.
Right, so there would be no time to talk about it before everything is finalized.
It isn't, the program of studies is already finalized for the 2025-2026 school year. So if we wanted to add world history honors for next school year, we should have done that in the fall of 2024. I'm not trying to be
Just-
difficult, I don't
understand.
understand why these things come up
No, and
6
I
months
understand.
later.
But this has been brought up over the course of this year and still hasn't been brought to for discussion. So
But
I
the
just would like to put it
subject-
up for discussion so that it happens with this board. And if it's not gonna happen this year, then it needs to happen for next year. It's just a future agenda item.
But the whole subject of social studies was brought before this board, and this board rejected it. And so, as Dr. Locke and Ozma have just indicated, the subject of social studies is an agenda item on February 28th.
Okay.
So I understand that the social studies proposal was brought forward and was rejected. However, what Heather is asking, I think, is for a discussion on world history honors, which was not brought before the board. So-
Because that wasn't a part of what was recommended by, and that really gets to my whole point, is that wasn't what was recommended by the administration. And this is again, kind of an area where this board tends to step outside and do things that are against what the administration is recommending. We can have a discussion about whatever we wanna talk about, I guess, but it sounds like it's already coming up in 2 weeks.
No, well, I don't know. So, from my perspective, this board's responsibility is to be the voice of the community, one, but more importantly, pump the brakes on things that we have questions on with admin. For social studies, world history honors was not part of the proposal, and I do understand that administration did not recommend it. But Member Kartsunis is new to the board, was not part of those discussions. So maybe we can have a discussion at the table at some point in the future. Right, so my understanding from Dr. Locke is that the academic committee discussion is a general discussion about social studies. It's not specifically world history honors. So,
We're happy to talk about world history honors whenever anyone wants.
I am to the point that this keeps coming up and we keep kicking the can down the road, having a discussion specifically world history honors at board level. I am to that point. You know, not a general overview, which I'm thankful for, but I think this keeps coming up. Community members keep asking about it, so I'm fine if we change that to February 27th board meeting.
I'm gonna pivot to Dr. I mean, this is, as Terry's saying, I mean, this does come in from a recommendation from your team. I'm trying to balance of like what Heather's asking from what community members are asking, but also balancing what administration wants to, I mean, we did not have a new proposal with all of the social studies come up. I know we've been trying to get all the transitions to happen, but it is, as Member Rahman said, it's a topic that keeps coming up, so we do need some sort of closure, conclusion. I'd be happy for it to be before the academic committee, if we're in agreement.
okay, so let's pause for a second and understand that we're not asking, in having a discussion about world history honors, we are not asking, as far as I'm aware, from Member Kartsunis, we are not asking Superintendent Locke and his team to bring a proposal for world history honors. I think an understanding of where we are, what you see, what the possibilities are, is appropriate. We're not asking for a proposal, and maybe an understanding why at one campus we have world history honors, and another campus we have world studies honors, right? We're not asking for a proposal. Is that correct?
That's right, I just wanted to add it as a future discussion item. Because it just keeps coming up from the community over and over.
We'll talk about it, okay? Okay, are there any other future agenda items? Okay, moving on to board comments. We set aside time on the agenda for board comments. This section of the agenda is not for board deliberation. It may be used by board members to offer their comments for the record. Are there members of the board who wish to offer comments?
I do, yes, I do want to offer comments. As we can see that this conversation, not only with world history, but the conversation about staffing, as Terry had just mentioned, that even within HR, that we are considering a special meeting to continue discussing the conversation. So we are hearing loud and clear the responses in terms of what courses, how they're being run. Appreciate everyone's patience. These things do take time in terms of, again, getting presentations, understanding, getting everyone on the same page, and trying to move in the right direction with these decisions.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our administration for their great work in this district, because we keep picking on things, but it's a great district to be in. And I'm thankful to be here, and I think many community members feel the same. So, and thank you to our student reports today. Always enjoyed that information.
Anybody else? Moving on to audience comments. The board will now hear additional public comments. Comments will follow our board protocols and board policy 2:230. Anyone who is interested in addressing the board may step forward. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Will the first speaker please step forward and identify yourself before speaking?
Andrew Gatton. I apologize if my voice is a little weak here. I'm recovering from a cold. Just a quick question on the new data director and what you're going to be doing to support her activity. Specifically, Dr. Locke, this is really kind of addressed to you. What you're going to be doing, or if you have already plans or have any discussions on what you're going to do to empower your team to help produce the data, analyze the data. I understand the need for a champion of data, so it's one voice from the district, but what else are you doing to empower your team? Just generically looking at the salary of the person at 115K, maybe you're putting the cart before the horse, but that's already under the bridge at this point. You have an opportunity to really empower your team to get and define what that data should look like, and you already have millions of dollars of administrative staff that it's already paid for. Those personnel are ripe for additional training, train-the-trainer programs, so if you pick key personnel, they can spread that throughout the organization and really make it a cultural change versus just adding a single body. Thank you.
Thank you all again for your service. We do have a terrific administration. I do feel that community, board, and administration work best in respectful dialogue with, obviously, no one holding absolute power. Now, regarding World History Honors, the denial of this course to South is a provocation. It was described by one candidate as a thumb in the eye. World History Honors prepares for an AP test. For many families, AP testing is very, very important because it allows early graduation from college. But for every student, it's a great experience to have such an important and mainstream course denied on one campus that prepares for an AP test is unconscionable. And and there are plenty of objectors to this in the South community. Again, under the most reasonable definition of alignment, World History Honors is a no-brainer to align. And I don't see how it would take any extra FTE. What social studies teacher would love to teach motivated kids? And next, about our new superintendent for academics. Any educator hired by this district should be vetted from the start before hiring. Are you inspired by the vision of one district with equal opportunity for all? Explain your answer. This should be a requirement for hiring in D86. There are other models, separate academic fiefdoms that exist elsewhere, but I don't think that approach is organic to D86. There's been just too much moral voice for alignment of course opportunity in D86, regardless of which high school is getting the short end of the stick. Sometimes, more often South, but two wrongs don't make a right. This should be part of the vision of the leadership here in District 86. It's one of our organic values. That said, it bears repeating, the pro-alignment community should be willing to negotiate a reasonable definition of the essential courses that should not be denied at either high school. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session for discussion under 5 ILCS 122C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. 5 ILCS 122C10, the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students. 5 ILCS 122C11, litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion, James.
Second, Ramon.
Motion James, second Ramon. Is there any discussion? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member James.
Aye.
Member Akris.
Aye.
Member Kartunis.
Aye.
Member Rahman.
Aye.
Member Walker.
Motion carries 6-0. The board will now adjourn to closed session. The board may take action following the closed session. Thank you.